space only exists because time is moving forward. If there was no dimension of time, there is no creation. Everything from our bodies, our memories, entire civilizations to even stars and galaxies will eventually dissolve in the flow of time. Out of this absolute stillness, the first pulsation, what was absolute nothingness became infinite. Kala means both time and space. As Kala arises, measurable space comes into being along with it. This isn't yet the physical universe. Bhai means fierce. Kalabhairava is the fundamental power that consumes all things. There is nothing to stop it. Rava means a roar, a series of bangs is a roar. So what causes this primordial pulsation? Our own birth and existence are shaped by these cycles. When Mahakala manifests itself, the time of cyclical movements will be obliterated. You are capable of experiencing Mahakala, which is beyond the dynamics of time. Are you willing? Namaskaram, welcome to 360 on this Purnima day, the full moon day of the Adhika Jyeshta Masa, or Adhika literally means the extra month, or it's like the leap month where the lunisolar calendar is trying to adjust. The days lost because of the lunar months and an extra month is added. Adhika literally means extra. So on this day, we will explore the nature of Kalabhairava. Let us start with Kalabhairava Ashtakam that we made for the Sthapana purpose. Kala kalam mahakalam bhutanatham bhairavam Rudra rudram maharudram Ugra rupam bhairavam Deva devam mahadevam Kshetrapalam bhairavam Maharupam mahayogam Kalabhairavam Ishanamide. Namaskaram and welcome. In the tradition, particularly in the Shaivite traditions that have spanned across the subcontinent, Kalabhairava is regarded as a fierce manifestation of Shiva, representing the mastery over time and destruction of ignorance. He is often associated with cremation grounds where the most fundamental ignorance dissolves. That is, the body that we accumulate, we go about living as if we are that accumulated mass of earth, which we call as my body today. That ignorance dissolves. With that ignorance, which is the foundational stone for all ignorance, dissolves. He is also known as protection of sacred spaces. That is, he is the Kshetrapala, and mastery over time and in turn, life and death. Kalabhairava is not a deity of destruction in its simplistic sense, but a profound representation of time itself in its active, unstoppable dimension. He reminds us that time shapes everything and nothing escapes its reach. Before we get to Kalabhairava, what exactly is Kala? In the yogic tradition, Kala or time is understood as the very fundamental of existence. First, Kala means both time and space. In fact, space only exists because time is moving forward. Because there is time, you can move from point A to point B. If there was no dimension of time, there would be no point A and point B, everything would be A or nothing. Time and space are intertwined in such a way, they're inseparable. Modern science calls this space-time. Albert Einstein spoke about it, but yogic culture had its own way of understanding it long before that. Kala also means darkness or emptiness. Darkness isn't just absence of light. To actually see light, you need either its source or something for it to be stopped and reflected upon. In pure emptiness, even the brightest light is invisible because there is nothing to catch it. See, here you can see my hand, because it stops light, it's opaque. But the air, which is vital for our life, you cannot see because it's not stopping light. In pure emptiness, even the brightest light is invisible because there is nothing to stop it. So emptiness isn't dull or lifeless, it's actually filled with endless possibilities. It is a space that's truly pregnant with potential for both the living and the dead. In the yogic tradition, when we speak of Kala or darkness, we are not describing a void, but a space vibrant with life potential. All of creation, all life springs from this ultimate darkness that we refer to as Shiva or Mahakala. Different traditions have given it many names with different nuanced definitions. But in the yogic culture, it is known as Mahakal or Mahakala, and so also in the tantric traditions. Mahakala is the great stillness that exists beyond time itself. Time as we know it is a consequence of the cyclical movements of creation. Beyond that is an ultimate state of stillness which we refer to as Mahakala. This stillness is pure potential. Nothing has happened yet. There is no creation, no movement, but boundless silence. But within its stillness, the capacity for everything to exist is already present. Then out of this absolute stillness, a reverberation that the yogic sciences refers to as spanda happens, the first pulsation within this boundless consciousness that makes creation possible. It's not a physical movement, but a subtle stirring where the potential for manifestation of physical dimensions of creation arises. So what causes this first reverberance or spanda? In the nature of consciousness itself, there is a streak of desire which wishes to manifest or find expression as creation. The source of creation has a longing to create itself, manifest itself in a million or trillion different forms. The stillness holds the urge to become, and spanda is the first manifestation or the stimuli for manifestation. Once spanda happens, sequence happens. This sequence is time or kala. Kala is the dimension that arises when this urge moves from stillness to creation. As kala arises, measurable space comes into being along with it. This isn't yet the physical universe, but the foundation that makes the physical possible. As a unified field, space and time are two sides of the same coin, both emerging from the same primordial pulsation that we refer to as spanda. From this foundation, more ripples form. These ripples become cycles. These cycles in turn are what eventually shape all physical things, from the tiniest particles, the formation of atoms, the birth of stars to galaxies, even the rhythms that govern life itself. Essentially, physical reality is the result of cyclical motion. By that first pulsation, our own birth and existence are shaped by these cycles. Whether it is the cycles within our bodies, cycles of days and seasons, or the cycles that move through all of nature, everything we see, touch and experience, whether it is atomic or cosmic, is a part of the grand unfolding of these cycles, all originating from that initial stillness and the first subtle movement of consciousness in the form of spanda. Kalabhairava is generally seen and understood as the very personification of time or kala in its most active and unstoppable form. He represents time in motion, which essentially in human experience life, the force that drives everything forward and eventually dissolves all forms. Kalabhairava, if you look at the word meaning of this, kala means time. Kala also means, as we said earlier, emptiness or space. Bhai means terrifying, fierce. A reality that devours all things, which is time. Rava means a roar or a scream. Well, when the first spanda happened, it was a gentle ripple. But when this started manifesting into physical forms, in the form of galaxies and universes, it was one big roar. So, you have heard of the Rudra as the first manifestation, that the creation roared, or a series of bangs is a roar. If you take off the manifold of an automobile, if you start the engine, it initially goes bang, 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 but if you throttle up, it becomes a roar. So, it roared. So, Kalabhairava means Kala roared in the form of physical manifestation. Because a roar or an intense process like that cannot last forever, all physical forms have a beginning and an end, and Kalabhairava represents that. Whether you see him as fearful or as fierce is up to you. For sure he is fierce. But are you fearful of the process of life and death? Or are you in absolute acceptance of all processes of life, which includes birth, living and dying? Well, today, you must have seen in the news that the new AI-powered combat drone produced by India from a company in Bangalore is named as Kalabhairava. Name was chosen to reflect the drone's advanced and almost time-defying capabilities, including staying airborne for more than 30 hours for reconnaissance purposes and a range of 9 hours for combat purposes. So, Kalabhairava is all over the place, one way or the other. Your association with Kalabhairava is to somehow defy the cruel cycle or the mill of time. When I say avoid or defy, I am not saying you will go beyond time, you learn to ride the cycles of time. If you ride the cycles of time, life becomes a ride. If you don't learn to ride the cycles of time, the same cycles of time can crush us on a daily basis. Time, as represented by Kalabhairava, is the fundamental power that consumes all things. This is why people describe it as being terrifying. Everything from our bodies, our memories, entire civilizations to even stars and galaxies will eventually dissolve in the flow of time. No creation, no structure, no identity can stand forever before the dynamic, all-consuming force of time. Kalabhairava is in this mode where there are no pause buttons or rewind. He rolls on. He is the energy that makes creation possible, that sustains it, and that eventually brings it to an end. In yogic sciences, this isn't just a destructive principle, it is the very process of becoming and dissolving. When Mahakala, the greater time, manifests itself, the dynamic time, the time of cyclical movements will be obliterated. This is the privilege of being human, that if you are willing, being here in this physical body, which is in the process of Kalabhairava or the dynamics of cyclical time, you are capable of experiencing Mahakala, which is beyond the dynamics of time. This Mahakala is what everybody is seeking unknowingly, a profound state of stillness which is beyond body, which is beyond mind, which is beyond all creation. In a way, you can call it God, you can call it Shiva, you can call it Mahakala, you can call it the ultimate stillness, but it is in the lap of this stillness, it is in the lap of Mahakala that all creation has risen, including you and me. But we are competent to experience that lap. We are competent to become one with that lap, though our bodies and minds and everything else which we experience as processes of life are subject to the laws of Kalabhairava. So to be able to see through the dynamics of time and space, to be able to see through the dynamic nature of creation and see the source of creation or taste Mahakala, what is needed is Vairagya. The word Vairagya means… Ragya means or Raga means color, Vai means beyond color, or in other words, if you become transparent, that means your identities with your body and mind is dissolved. You still have a body and mind, but if your identification is dissolved, then you become transparent. In this transparence, you can see beyond the dance of Kalabhairava. You can experience the stillness and the absolute profoundness of the basis of creation, which is referred to as Mahakala. Every human being is competent to know this, every human being is capable of knowing this. It is just a question of, are you willing to look at life for its foundations, because it is the strength of the foundation. It is how much attention we have paid to the foundation which determines how well the structure lasts, how functional it will be and how long it will last also. When you reach Vairagya, you no longer block or reflect the experiences that pass through you. You are not resisting or clinging to anything. Joy, pain, success, failure, misery, agony, ecstasy, they all move through you without leaving a mark. In other words, you go through life untouched, without a scratch upon you. In this state, you're not compulsively caught up in the cycles of past and future or dragged along by the restless movements of the mind through time. The endless cycles of birth, rigors of living and terror of dying, all these cycles are destroyed within you, not because they will not happen, it's simply that you are able to look through these dynamics because you have touched the foundational aspect of life, which we refer to as Mahakala. In yogic sciences, this is seen as a gateway to liberation or to mukti or moksha. Mukti means freedom from all bondage, including the deepest cycles of karma, essentially meaning that the very body that you carry, mind of course you know, but the very body that you carry is a body of memory. There is elemental memory, there is evolutionary memory, there is karmic memory, there is conscious and subconscious levels of memory, articulate and inarticulate levels of memory. And right now, the immediate memory which is functional for you, that you know where you kept the car keys. Totally 8 forms of memory playing within you, which you call as myself, you are a collage of this memory. This is what karma means, that karma does not mean only that part of memory which is immediately taking effect, but all this is memory. This memory is what is deciding the programming that you are. This is your software. Now, how the software plays out depends on how consciously you address it or how unidentified you are with it. What is the distance you hold between you and your software? Your body is a certain kind of software, your mind and emotions are another kind of software, your energetic behavior is another kind of software. All these different layers of programming together functions as what you call as myself. But if you develop vairagya, that is, you develop a certain transparence because of the distance that you hold between the bodies of memory that you carry within you. Now, your ability to experience time beyond the dynamics of what we call as Kalabhairava and to know time as Mahakala, unmoving time. In the yogic civilization, there are wonderful stories to define the nature of time and how it takes shape and how creation happens within time and space. One beautiful story like this is of Markandeya. This story symbolizes the possibility for a human being to transcend the constraints of physical body and material world, to transcend the dynamic process of time that we call as Kalabhairava. Before Markandeya was born, his parents had a choice. In the blessing of a sage, it was told to them, they can either choose to have a son who would be just rudimentary but live 100 years, or a brilliant and radiant child who would live only for 16 years. The wise couple chose the second option, that they wanted a radiant and resplendent being, even if it is only for 16 years. A bright, extraordinary being was born. In their experience of enjoying the company of this brilliant being, 15 years went like 15 days. As the end of his life term was getting over, he crossed 15 years, the parents grew anxious. Unlike most parents who can lose themselves in the illusion of endless tomorrows, they knew exactly when they would have to say goodbye to their own child. This is a kind of torture that no parent should suffer. Every child is born with an expiry date. It is just that most of us do not know ours or our children's. But they did. As the date drew near, they finally told Markandeya the truth about his lifespan, that it'll end when he turns 16. Markandeya, wise beyond his years, understood what was coming. When death approached him to claim him, Markandeya made one bold move. He went and embraced a powerfully consecrated linga, a form of Shiva, especially energized as Kalabhairava. The moment he held the linga, time stood still. Death could not touch him. Markandeya had accessed a dimension where he was no longer bound by time. The legend says he remained forever 15, never turning 16, because he tapped into that consciousness that we call as Mahakala. This story symbolizes the potential for the yogi to transcend the constraints of physical body and the material world. Some regional and certain oral traditions, particularly in Tamil Nadu, the southernmost state in Indian subcontinent, and also mentioned in the Skanda Purana, claim it was specifically eighth avatar of Bhairava, Kala Samhara Murti, that blessed Markandeya with immortality. As the final form in Ashtabhairava, 8 manifestations of Shiva or 8 manifestations of Bhairava, Kala Samhara Bhairava means time-destroying Bhairava, associated with the destruction of illusion and ignorance of separate self or of me or myself or I, which are the root causes of all suffering and perceived separation from the divine. What we call as enlightenment or realization is just destruction of this illusion. Enlightenment is not an attainment, not an achievement, not of going somewhere. It's just a realization. You realized the nature of your existence, that the sense of separation that you might have enjoyed or suffered is an illusion that you have created. Markandeya is seen as the Shesha. The word Shesha literally means remainder. In arithmetic or mathematics, you know, if you divide 17 by 5, that is 3 times 15, 2 is left out, that is the remainder. So in the process of creation and dissolution, after every dissolution, a certain volume of information or memory is left as remainder, which assists the next formation of creation. Next manifestation happens from this remainder. Markandeya is seen as that remainder which created this universe which we live in once again, and this has happened 84 times. This is the 84th time. And we owe this because Markandeya carried that memory or imprints of memory from the previous creation. Markandeya coming to us as a reminder of the impressions of memory from previous creations gave us the advantage of the dynamic of time and organization of creation that we exist in today. So, in the yogic tradition, there is a huge amount of honor offered to Markandeya because he brought the remainder from previous universes or previous creations as we know them. As I don't want this episode to go on into endless time maybe in the next Paurnami, we'll approach this as to what is the deity of Kalabhairava, how we are manifesting it at Isha, and how you can approach Kalabhairava how you should not approach him, and the various benefits and other aspects. In the Shiva Purana, they go about saying, the universe consists of 8 forms of Lord Shiva. Pervading that, the universe subsists like the pearls in the string. What are these 8 forms of Shiva or Kalabhairava? And how we manifest these numbers? We can understand this in a very simple form. Before we go into that, we will look at that on the next full moon day. For you to simply understand, you know this is a 0. If you… little energy, spanda, if it becomes like this, what was a no-thing, now it's becoming an infinite creation. You must understand, finite and infinite comes because there are numbers. Infinite is a number that you cannot reach by counting. What was absolute nothingness or no-thingness became infinite. You know, this is the symbolism for infinity all across the world, because this comes from the number system from ancient Bharat. So this infinite creation, when it takes on proper physical form, which becomes available to what we are referring to as Kalabhairava, he turns around and becomes 8. 8 forms of Bhairavas, because 8 is the same form which was nothing. With energy infusion of spanda, it became infinite, and then it stood up as a physical manifestation, very, very subject to the forces that we refer to as Kalabhairava. 8 forms. We'll explore all this in the coming Purnami, which is the Jyeshta Purnami. Till then, namaskaram.
Devaraja sevyamana pavanagri pankajam Vyala yajna sutramin